Welcome to Bros and Brooze. I'm Vincent, and today we have Brian and Mason. Let's start off with our drinks. Brian, what do you got for us today?
Forgot how to pronounce it. Vihans or something.
No, just
Damn
go
it,
for
I
it. No,
just
no,
looked
no,
it up.
try it. Just go for it.
Anyways, it's a beer from the world's oldest brewery standing. Brewed in Bavaria, Germany, since 1040. So this is an old beer. This is what I'll be drinking. I'll let you know how it tastes.
Oh, it tastes delicious.
All right. What about Mason over here? What you got?
I got the classic Terra, the Korean classic beer. No soju today, but yeah, I think Terra by itself is still pretty good. Maybe next episode I'll bring in like an actual craft beer or something a little more interesting. What are you drinking, Vincent?
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. For me, I got Citrus Got Real, a brewery that I in Texas. So we'll see how it tastes. Looks good. All right. So how you guys how's you guys' Thanksgiving? What you guys do?
Brian, you want to go first?
Sure. I spent it with my aunt and uncle. I didn't go home back to Virginia, so I just spent it with my aunt and uncle here in California, and we just, we picked up some food from Costco, some easily prepped stuff, and I picked up some Filipino desserts from a bakery that was still open on Thanksgiving, which was surprising, but it was great. Just a good, wholesome time, nothing too crazy. Yeah, it was a quiet Thanksgiving for me.
Nice.
Well, what about you, Mason? What you do?
So we had a Friendsgiving on Monday, I think, like before Thanksgiving. So we just had a bunch of friends over. I was actually sick that week. From like Sunday through like Wednesday, pretty much. I was like pretty sick with a cold, I think. So originally for Friendsgiving, I was gonna make a japchae dish, but I was just like Monday morning, I was just so sick, and I was just thinking like even if I was able to like go out to the grocery store and get everything, I don't think I'd want like to be serving my japchae with like all my my sickness all over the dish. It just doesn't sound very appetizing or safe or healthy. So I just got like a fruit platter instead from Safeway. I really wanted to make the japchae though. Maybe next time.
Your
There's
japchae
always
is
next
pretty
year.
famous. I remember.
Thank you.
Like
I
when
remember I
lived in
bought it.
Virginia and you brought it over.
Yeah, and then didn't you make the like the syringes, right? Like the Jello.
Yeah,
That was-
the syringe Jello shots.
yeah,
Absolutely,
that
I
was
did.
good. That would
Good
have been
times, man. Good
Damn.
times.
Ah,
When I lived in
damn. I'm
Virginia.
missing out. I'm missing out. Maybe next time.
yeah.
Hey man,
Dude,
you're not
I
missing
actually
out
do
on
miss
anything
those Jello
anymore.
shots now.
Well, I'll
Shit,
be
I might
sure to
make it
bust them out
myself.
next time.
Okay. Yeah, we just had a bunch of friends over on Monday. Cheers.
Cheers.
What did they say in German? Oh.
How do you say cheers in German? But yeah, anyways, had a bunch of friends over, and then on Thursday, went over to my parents, and I think when I was younger, we would do like these like full blown out like Thanksgiving dinners, like have a bunch of family and like friends over, and like a big turkey, like everyone's bringing like big dishes, and like later in the night, like all the adults are playing like poker or something, or I don't know. But I think nowadays, like my family just keeps like really low key. So all we did was just like a lunchtime thing. I think takeout, like Thanksgiving platter takeouts from Whole Foods. It was just like me, my parents, my uncle, and my grandparents. And yeah, just like a chill, like smaller thing. I think just because like my parents and grandparents are getting a bit older now, I don't think they really want to like bother with doing like this whole like big celebration, like Thanksgiving dinner. So, and I kind of like that too. It's just like you're just there for lunch and you just go back home. It's nice. It was good catching with my parents and see my uncle again. Yeah, pretty good Thanksgiving.
I was gonna say at
Sounds.
some point it falls on you to host those events so that they don't have to expend as much energy, and you gotta carry the legacy, throw the parties.
Yeah.
Let them enjoy it. You know?
I think that would be cool though. Like once, because I've never really made a Thanksgiving turkey. I've made like stuffing and mashed potatoes, so that's like easier.
Mm.
I think like really going out and making like the whole like the main thing, the Thanksgiving turkey with my parents, or just like I'm at my parents' place and I just cook it myself. I think that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Did I make turkey that time? No, I didn't. No, I
Didn't you
made
make like
prime rib.
like a
Prime
steak
rib.
or something? I remember that.
Yeah.
That was good too.
That was a lot of butter I put on that. Let me tell you.
But,
Sounds like a fun time you guys had.
yeah, it was good. What about you,
Yeah.
Vincent?
So on Thursday, we had family friends came over with their kids and stuff. So it kind of just a chill day. Just two family. And then obviously I had well, I had my girl over too, so that was
Oh, she was over, huh?
that was pretty fun.
Damn,
Oh,
you guys are
Florida?
moving fast. Already meeting the
That was fun.
family?
That was fun.
Damn.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you already know how I move, you know.
Did
It
she
was
get
just last
interrogated by your
podcast
family?
where we just found out about this girl, and then now he's suddenly meeting the family.
Damn.
Time flies.
Yeah, so I mean the reason why she came over is obviously I had 2 days off, and then she had Monday. She has Monday and Tuesday off, so it's kind of a longer weekend for both of us. So I think it was a good time to spend time together.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah, no awkward moments, nothing. And then we saw some lights on Friday. Did a little shopping, did a little festival
What kind
here
of
and
lights?
there.
Like Christmas lights?
Christmas lights. There was like a winter kind of thing, mall near here, and then we did a couple little food truck festival they had this weekend. So that was pretty fun. Try showed her oh my gogi, which was like bulgogi French fries, which is really good. And then she tried funnel cakes and fried Oreos for her first time.
I love fried Oreos.
She was like, why do they fried Oreos? That thing is so sweet already. Like, what are they doing? Like, what is this crap? And then she tasted it, she loved it. So welcome to America, I guess. You can try anything. Yeah, it was a pretty fun time. Showed around Houston a little bit here and there.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Hey Brian, remember when we used to work concessions for VSA? And then we'd have like the fried Oreos that we would make there.
Yeah.
That's good. Sometimes I would kind of like yoink one here and there.
I didn't think they were all that great, but good for you.
I thoroughly enjoyed them, but maybe I'm biased because I really like Oreos. But
I think they're great. I just think you get tired of them so quickly. You can't eat like.
I think like after one or two, it is enough.
Opinion.
I wouldn't have like 6. I think 6 would be like way too much.
Yeah. I remember asking the guy, he was like, how many are you selling?
Dude, if I'm at a fair like that, the only thing I'm getting is the corn dog. I fucking love them corn dogs, man.
The corn dogs. Like the Korean style corn dogs, or just like regular corn dogs?
No, just normal fucking corn dogs. I mean, Korean style corn dogs are great too, but like just a normal corn dog, man. Put some ketchup and mustard on it, you're good.
I agree. My dad would always like buy these like frozen corn dogs all the time. All the time.
Costco?
Yeah, I think Costco.
Always Costco. Well, now on sale. Ooh, time.
By the way, this beer is fucking delicious. Highly recommend. Weihenstaffener.
Where did you buy it from? Was it that like wine, like alcohol mecca?
I don't know. I've had it in the fridge for a while because I don't drink really anymore. So I just busted it out, and I don't really remember where I got it. But I'm gonna be on the lookout for this one. So definitely check it out. I'm not sponsored, by the way. Would be cool if I was.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Let's dive in then. So we kind of talked about a little addiction after our podcast last time. And, you know, it's a big topic, so we want to dive right into it. And so, all right, Brian, what do you think, like, what are some of the top addictions in America? And why do you think those addictions are, like, so relevant
Okay, hold on. Let's do a little different. Let's take a different spin on this one. Let's all
Mhm.
like guess one thing, like one substance or whatever is like that we would just decide is like the biggest addiction, right?
Like number
Yeah.
So
one.
for me, I'm yeah, I would say alcohol. I think alcohol is the number one like addiction in the US.
Okay. I think
What
it's
All
about
right. What
you
about
guys?
you,
nicotine.
Mason?
I think it's
Nicotine.
I
definitely
think it's
nicotine.
nicotine.
Yeah. Like no question
I
in my
think
mind.
for me it's like caffeine. I don't think like anything like too crazy with it, but I think it's just such a daily thing that we need in our life to function, to work. Um, like probably in a day, I probably drink like a monster and then a cup of coffee to just keep
Is,
going at work.
is
It's
caffeine
crazy.
considered a addictive substance though?
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, it does
Mm.
have that substance in it. Why do you think alcohol, Brian?
You know, I feel like in perspective, it's such a integral part of society. And honestly, like when you mentioned caffeine, I was like, oh, actually, that's actually a really good one. You know, like I thought about like that might be like even higher than alcohol. But for alcohol, I would say that's like the most commonly abused just because of the fact like, okay, if someone came up to you, okay, let's look at it from a societal perspective. If you were just talking to someone, right? And you ask them, "Hey, do you want to go grab a drink?" And they say, "No, I don't drink." What's the next question that you ask? Or what's the next thing you say to them? "Oh, why not? Why don't you drink?" You know?
Mhm.
Like is there a reason you don't want to drink? Not it's like why is that the norm? Why do you have to question their choice to not drink? Actually, the question that they should be asking, why do you drink? You know, like why do you drink? You know? Like, it's just such a part of it's like the way it's been integrated into society. It's not something that like um you technically need to live your life or whatever, right? Like caffeine people might use to like, give them the energy, and so that's where like sure, that's something that they rely on and of course go about their lives with. And alcohol is just something that's just like, it becomes part of your life and culture in a way that it shouldn't be. Like
Mhm.
it just creeped its way in a way that, like, I mean, it's kind of ironic that we're talking that I say alcohol as we're on a podcast that's called Bros and Brews, but hopefully no one here has abusing alcohol and blacking out every weekend like in
Nope.
college. So
Mm.
Yeah, thankfully I put those days behind me. Yeah,
Well, Mhm.
I said nicotine just because, like, in my mind, I feel like a lot more people smoke and use cigarettes as opposed to alcohol. Um, just from my personal bias, also just because I think with nicotine and whether it's like smoking or vaping, it's I don't think it negatively impacts you as much in the short term as opposed to alcohol. And so in my mind, like that would make it more of an addictive substance. Um,
Mhm.
I was like, it'd be like easier for you to consume nicotine, right? Um, but I I kind of cheated a bit because just now I looked up what the most addictive substances are.
Dang.
I won't say it yet. But yeah, I did think nicotine was like the most addictive.
I I will say like on that front, like you do
Mhm,
see like in history, right? Where over the past, like let's just look at in the early, no, mid 2000s, nicotine tobacco use like dropped, right? For
mhm,
whatever reason, people were turned off from the idea of cigarettes and all that stuff, and so there was a period of time where usage dropped and no one was really interested in it, right?
mhm,
But then came in vapes, that huge resurgence of nicotine and tobacco use came back because of vaping. You know, at first it was like a small niche that wasn't heavily regulated back in, I guess, 2014, 2015-ish time period. That's when it started,
Mm.
and it evolved into what it is now. Such a invasive and prevalent issue of everyone's using it now. You know, nicotine, vapes, you know, you see it everywhere. You know, it's not like, oh, no smoking inside or anything. Now it's no smoking and no vaping.
Mm.
So it's definitely increased. You know, it had a dip and then now it's back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What about you, Vincent?
Oh, I
Caffeine.
mean, yeah, I did caffeine, and I did look it up too. So I kind of a little I mean, obviously, I thought caffeine before too, before looking it up, but I did look it up, and there were like some conflicting, top views, but some were alcohol, nicotine, marijuana, coffee, sex,
Did you say
gambling,
marijuana?
internet,
Marijuana. Don't call him out
marijuana.
on that, man. Don't call him on that. I was gonna say
But
marijuana.
yeah, there's some interesting addiction.
Mary J.
Mm. It looks
That
like, based
that
on
I
what
think.
I can find, it looks like
Mhm.
alcohol is the more addictive substance, at least by like
Yeah.
5 million people. At least like on this website I'm using, it says
Okay.
go
Hold
ahead.
up, hold up, hold up. Let's define what we mean by addiction, though. By addiction, do we mean something that we're abusing, something that we can't stop using, or like what is it? Like, you know, like is it just something that we're like, what do we mean by addiction? Because if you think about it, right, like caffeine, sure, it's an addiction, but how many people are actually abusing it, right? Like how many cups of coffee can you drink in a day before it's unsafe for you, right?
5.
Mhm.
Apparently,
Like
so I read 5. Hmm.
5, right? And do you think like most people are out there drinking more than 5 cups of coffee a day? You know, maybe they're having like 1 or 2 cups of coffee, right? Like 3, 4, okay, sure. At least that I've talked to drink like cups of coffee a day.
Mhm.
Like there are some people I know who drink an extreme amount of coffee a day, but like that's not the norm, right? So are they actually abusing it? I don't know. Is there a reliance on it? Sure. And I mean,
Hmm.
arguably, it could still be an addiction without abuse. So,
I
but
Yeah.
think from what
I
I
would agree.
understand about addiction, something is classified as addiction, whether it's like drug use, like alcohol, nicotine, or maybe it's like some other thing like gaming, or I don't know, like whatever like kind of addiction you might have. I think
Mhm.
the technical definition is it has to be to where it negatively affects other areas of your life, right?
It would be considered abuse, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's
So
like
would you
But
getting
say
to
like
that
you
core,
can. So
like
you're
I would
saying you
say,
can be addicted to something, but it doesn't impact your life in a negative way.
or no, it's only to the extent where it starts to impact or negatively impact areas of your life where it then becomes classified as an addiction. So for example, let's say I have an alcohol addiction, right? If I
Okay.
have like a drink like once a week or like a few times a week, whatever, right? Or maybe like several times a week or
Mm.
once a week, the use itself is not necessarily what classifies the addiction. It's when it becomes like I can't work because I need to drink, or like I can't can't exercise, or like I can't attend to other areas of my life because I need to drink. Whether that be 1 beer, 5 beers, 20 beers, it's not the quantity that matters. It's when it starts negatively affecting your life. That's when it's technically
Mhm.
classified as an addiction. So it's hard to gauge in that sense because there's no like, oh, if you have more than 5 drinks a week, that's technically addiction. Like there's no like standard as far as I'm aware in that sense. It's not
Mhm.
like quantifiable necessarily, but it's more of like a behavioral thing.
More
So
so
you would
to the
say
point. Oh, go
so
ahead.
so you would say like let's say you wake up at 6 and so for caffeine you say you have to get a cup of coffee, and then by lunch you got to get another cup of coffee, but let's say there's only like a coffee shop in like 15 minutes away and you got to eat lunch, but you can't eat lunch and get coffee, so you skip your lunch to get that coffee that you need. So that would classify as an addiction then.
I think so,
You'll say. Hmm.
but it also depends on, I feel like, repeated behavior versus like a one-time thing, right? So like
Yeah. So I mean, I
like
guess
you
for that
skipping lunch
example,
once would not be classified as an addiction, but if you have a repeat behavior or like a pattern of doing that or doing something similar, then I think that's also what would kind of make that be classified as an addiction.
So I mean, for an example, I used to work, like for fast food and stuff, and take some orders and stuff, and then I see like the same people every day. They get the same thing every day, and that would kind of classify as an addiction, then, right? You would
See,
say?
I wouldn't say that's an addiction because
Mhm.
maybe they just have a routine, right? Like even if I
Routine.
go to McDonald's every day and order like the breakfast combo or whatever, it's not an addiction
Mhm.
necessarily. It could just be it's a convenient thing in my everyday like work routine, like work commute,
It
whatever.
that could also be out of convenience. Maybe they're just going because if it's convenient and that's the perfect time to get it, and that's part of the routine, as Mason just said.
But I mean,
But
okay.
also, it
So
has to
what they
be.
order, what they order is a Diet Coke, a large Diet Coke.
Mhm.
Just that. They're going through a 15-minute wait time to get a Diet Coke when they can just bring a 2-liter and put it in a fridge at their workplace or something like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. it
Yeah,
The
could,
maybe
convenience
the
aspect,
it could be
maybe
it
just
could be
picking
convenient. Yeah.
up picking up a Diet Coke, is just part of the routine. It's something that,
Hmm.
just makes them feel like for them, that's something that gives them that little bit of happiness in their day, or
Hmm.
whatever, like there's certain things that I do every day that I'm like, I don't need to do that, but like I just do it and it's just part of my routine and makes me feel like I'm like in my own
In your
little
zone.
bubble, my safe space. Yeah, so like I think doing something like that,
Hmm.
that's perfectly normal, right? I think
Hmm.
it's when it becomes an intense craving, right? Like when it becomes an intense craving where where your body literally shows you signs of like withdrawal if you don't have it. That's at that point, that's when I would consider it an addiction.
Mhm.
You know, when you start to have
Hmm.
withdrawal symptoms, when your body literally tells you, "I need it," you know, this foreign substance, I need it. That's when I consider it an addiction. Like it's
Hmm.
one thing to crave something for a period of time, but it's another thing to like literally your body's literally telling you and screaming at you to give it back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's fair. That's a valid definition. Yeah, I agree.
So
Hmm.
with that being said, like, yeah, I would agree with Vincent saying like caffeine might be up there because there are a lot of people in this world that cannot operate without caffeine in their system, and they articulate that very clearly. Like, I need caffeine in order to be at my best, and that's kind of insane to think about.
Mhm.
Nicotine
No,
is
like,
closely up.
No.
yeah, I definitely like try to limit myself to one cup of coffee or something, um, or just try not to have that cup of coffee once in a while, just so I don't, you know, crave for it. Like I need this. This is normal. So like so every day I kind of have my protein shake and then I have my Monster, and then snacks and stuff, whatever. But that's kind of my daily morning routine. Drink my protein shake by 8, and then my Monster by 9:30 or something. And that's my caffeine intake for a day. And if I'm still tired by 2, I get another cup of coffee or something. But doesn't happen too
So,
often
so
since I try to work on my sleep schedule. But
if you
Mhm.
went a day, if you like spend the day and was like, I'm not gonna drink coffee today, you can do that just fine.
mhm. I think
Yeah, I know.
I think
You're like,
at one I get tired. That's the thing. That's the thing. I get tired just sleeping, and then obviously I need to work, but or take a nap, which is fine too. Take a quick power nap. So
I
Okay.
I don't think
mean,
it's like a craving, but I think it's not just like I'm tired kind of thing.
I think it's just crazy the idea. Like, this is kind of off topic, but I think it's just crazy of the idea to like be able to operate and function doing like laborious activity, either mental or physical, for 8 9 hours at a time in a day without any sort of supplement to keep you going. Right. So I think to that point, I think caffeine makes sense because humans aren't made
Mhm.
to like do something continuously for that extended period of time. You need those breaks, you need to rest like every few hours or so. I mean, like it's scientifically proven. You do 1 hour's worth of work, take a break, 15 minutes, and then get back into it, that type of thing. It's scientifically proven that you do not operate without some sort of supplement to keep you going all those extended hours. So is it
Yeah.
is it really like an addiction, or is it just you actually need that to get to follow
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I
societal
mean,
norm,
so like
right?
on days off, then I don't drink it, obviously. But I think it becomes a
Yeah.
problem if on my days off, I'm like, oh, let me get in my monster and kind of use it too.
Hmm.
I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
that's when it's become an addiction. But
On
yeah,
that note, Mason, tell us
Yeah.
about you. Are you addicted to anything?
I don't know. Am I?
Tell us about that.
ready to go.
Let's do it.
I feel like I've actually been trying to vape less and less.
Hmm.
So I think I
Mhm.
started back like a couple months ago. I think I bought this like a couple months ago. I think in the past like week, I've been slowly trying to go off of it. And I'm not trying necessarily to go like cold turkey. So it's one thing that's nice that my vape has like a counter, like on a screen. So it'll tell you like how many times you hit it a day. I don't know how much I was hitting it before, but I'm gonna try and start keeping track of it now. But I'm also like doing things like like out of sight, out of mind, right? Like I'm trying not to just have it on my desk all the time, but instead like tucked away in like a cabinet, like in my closet, like in like a hard to reach area. So it's like more of like a mental hurdle for me to actually go and get it. And just try and like break that habit. That being said, I think the biggest hurdle in my mind is not that I can't not vape. That's not the issue. It's just like in my mind, it doesn't feel like there's a reason for me to stop. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
It's not like
Mhm.
alcohol where it's like, oh, you have like hangovers or like it's very bad for your liver or um like the calories even, like something that's like very like
Yes.
noticeable in the short term. Whereas with like vaping and nicotine, I think one of the hard things for me to get over is that I don't feel any negative effects in the short term. It's just like, oh, like
Mm.
I take a hit, it's nice for a little bit, and I just go on with my day. But alcohol lasts for several hours, right? And so
Mhm.
it definitely impacts me a lot more than nicotine,
Hmm.
and I
Absolutely.
think because of those things, and I also just had bad experience with alcohol, but I can't say I've really had like bad experiences with nicotine either, like I don't have
Yeah.
like any sort of trauma that's keeping me away. Um, yeah, that being said, like I kind of know, if nothing else, like vaping kind of expensive. It's expensive, I know like long term it's not good for my lungs. Could lead to cancer. I don't know um how bad vaping is. I just don't think there's any long term study on that. But regardless, it can't be that great for you, obviously. So I'm slowly trying to go off of it more and trying to keep myself more accountable. I threw in my disposable vape and yeah, just slowly and surely trying to not hit this thing, even though it's right in my hand. And I think a big part of it is just like you mentioned before, Brian. It's not even necessarily the nicotine itself, but it's like the muscle memory of like just bringing something to my mouth.
Hmm.
So I've also been just chewing a lot more gum. What
Yeah,
is
yeah, there's
happening now?
something.
Yeah,
That
it's something to
helps.
keep my mouth busy.
Honestly, bro. Okay. Another off-topic thing. I used to eat that gum. Tried it all the fucking time. That
Yeah.
gum lasts so short. Even though I love it because like it's the hard shell and you crack
Powerful.
into it. It's great.
Mhm.
That shit lasts like maybe 10 minutes, and then the flavor's gone. I switched over to 5 gum. That shit also not sponsored. I switched over to 5 gum. That shit lasts forever, man. I've been chewing on that shit all day, every day. You know, like all day, and that one stick of gum lasts for me, bro. That's all I gotta say.
No, I agree. No, in fact, I've had this gum since like at least a year, probably longer. It's just that when I bought it, it came like in a big bulk, and it's just been like I don't know, it's been taking me a
It's
while
kind of
to
gross.
get through all of it. I mean, yeah, it's nothing else like a necessarily June 2024. That's the expiration date. You know?
Okay, all right, fair.
I'm fine.
You know?
I'm fine. It's
Not
not like it's
that
like
long
spilling
ago.
out either, you know.
I don't know, man. But yeah, no. That
Well, what
on that note, going back to the
what about
topic,
you,
yeah.
Brian?
So,
Yeah.
oh, I personally don't. I don't think I have an addictive personality. I don't think there's anything I particularly felt a desire or strong craving for that kept me hooked onto something. Like I've smoked, I've drank, I've done several things that could have led to addiction, but um I think for me it's like I tried it and I was like, yeah, I never got to the point where I would feel that, behavioral aspect or some sort of withdrawal, like even when it came to like smoking, I only did that when I was like super stressed, but outside of that, it wasn't like I was smoking like a pack a day or I had to smoke every day or anything. No, it was like once in a I had one pack of cigarettes that got me through. Honestly, I didn't even finish using. Like I probably took 3 or 4 cigarettes out of that pack over the course of 5 or 6 years, and
Wow.
at some point I just tossed the pack. I was like, I don't even know why I have. There was only a
Mhm.
few moments where I even used it. Same with nicotine. Like I've bought vapes. I've had my own. I've been involved in that. And I've never gotten to a point where I've used the vape in its entirety. Like for a disposable, I've never used it in its entirety. I probably lose it before I even use a quarter of it. Like I just don't get addicted to those things and I don't drink coffee. Um the one thing consistent in my life was I would say is alcohol, but even that, like, is more for the social aspect. I don't really drink it to get drunk anymore or because I'm relying on it, but more because, oh, I'm sitting in an environment where everyone's
Mhm.
drinking. Let me grab like at least one drink so I can, you know, cheers. Or a
Mm,
drink looks cool. Ooh, let me try that.
yeah.
They be making drinks looking so cool nowadays. LED lights, all that shit. It's crazy. But I wanted to ask a question. So for Mason, right? So
Yeah.
when it comes to being addicted to something, like in this case nicotine,
Mm.
when do you realize you're addicted to it, right? Do you yourself recognize it, or is it like an external factor that's like someone else is like, oh, hey, man, you've been doing that a lot, or like, well, at what point do you realize, oh man, like this kind of took over like a good chunk of my life? Like, when do you realize it, or do you ever realize it?
Um, it's hard for me to even say whether or not I have an addiction necessarily into nicotine,
Mm,
but I'm kind of looking at some like maybe factors, right? Or not necessarily factors, but indicators. So I think one thing I'm thinking of is just time I spend thinking about nicotine, like thinking about vaping, right? Do I think about it a lot of my day? Like, can I go like a few hours without even thinking about my vape? I think when I'm just sitting idle, I'm just like kind of not doing much, like I'm just scrolling through my phone or I'm just like on YouTube or whatever. Then I notice like I do tend to think of my vape a little bit, like maybe like at least a few times an hour.
mm,
But if my mind's occupied, like I'm at the gym, like I'm not getting groceries, like I'm doing something productive, like I'm at work, like I never think about my vape. So at least in that sense, that kind of gives me some comfort that okay, I don't think I'm like super addicted. I can go extended periods of time without even thinking about it, as long as I'm
mm,
like occupied. I think it's in like those
mm.
downtime moments, like I'm just sitting at my desk doing nothing. That I'm like, okay, yeah, that's when I start getting bored and I want to have my vape. just to kind of like fill the time.
Mhm.
Another thing I consider is, is it negatively affecting my life? So, first, like, am I spending like exorbitant amounts of money or even just lots of money on vapes? For right now, no. I think I've been pretty responsible at my costs. Not like having to buy like 5 disposables a month, or anything crazy like that. Or I wouldn't say I have like any noticeable signs of like, oh, like I have less lung capacity, like I can't breathe as deeply, or like I'm out of breath more often. Like that doesn't happen to me yet. That hasn't happened to me yet. So looking at some of those like indicators, I would say I'm not addicted. But at the same time, I think if I keep up like my current rate, like if I don't do anything about it right now, then it could develop into addiction, I feel.
Okay. Yeah, so like on that, yeah, with that being said, you've noticed probably that over the past couple of months your usage of it has increased over time, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it has.
Yeah. And so that's the thing when it comes to like being addicted to things, like you don't ever realize it yourself until you really get like some sort of some person or some variable that's just like, hey, let me think about, oh wow, I actually have been using this a lot, or yeah, like you just don't realize it. And that's the scary part about addiction. You just don't realize it because it just creeps up on you. It doesn't just happen overnight.
I think,
It creeps up on you.
yeah,
Oh, Vincent, what do you want to
yeah,
say?
I think it creeps up on you like over months. Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of following up with what Ryan said. For me, I think when I was a kid, I like games a lot. Like I used to go like right after school, game to like 12, 2 maybe, and then sleep at school and then do it again. But what, man? That was bad.
Okay, I guess I was addicted to gaming. Back in high school.
Yeah, the grind was bad. It was,
Okay, wait, hold up. Was it an addiction, or was it like what was it something else? Like why did you game, right? Did you have friends in that gaming
yeah.
like world that where you just hung out with by gaming all the time, right? Or was your real life just not in a great place, and so you went and escaped to gaming to kind of give yourself that relief? I mean, that could still be addiction, but
Yeah.
like it's just like what was the reason for it?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my argument for me when I was gaming back then,
Mhm.
like I did not enjoy my day-to-day life. I had all my friends online, and I still am in contact with some of them, that I like even today, there were people that I'm still friends with, but I interacted with them online. So that was my life, like being in that video game, spending time with them. That was my life. Every time I came back online, they're like, "Oh, hey, welcome back." Blah blah blah. I would spend my days hanging out with them. So was I addicted to the game, or was I addicted to the community that I had with that? And in that sense, like, was it an addiction, or was that just my community?
Well, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
If your friends or your community like wasn't there online, like it was just you and like single player games, or you just playing Maple Story by yourself or whatever,
Oh,
do you
gross.
think you would have do you think you would have played as much as you did?
Oh, absolutely not.
Mm.
No.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the same kind of case for me. Kind of just have that, community and just kind of the same friends. Oh, what's up? And then, that routine going. But then after a while, they stop hopping off. I start hopping off and then come back and it's not the same anymore. So I stop. I don't know if that counts as an addiction, but.
No, I would consider it like you have a community and you wanted to be part of that community.
Mm.
And so that was just a means to the community. And honestly, that can be that there's so many holes in that argument. Like you can say, "Oh, why are you doing heroin?" "Oh, because all my friends are doing it." No, that's not like what I mean. Like obviously there's like you got to use some sort of like rationalizing here where like you weren't addicted to the game. You could care less about the game. If those people if that community you had was in real life, you wouldn't be playing the game. You'd be in real life, right? So that's the
Yeah.
argument for that one. Yeah. Mason, you're the
Alright,
single player game. You're the single player gamer, so
Yeah, I think if there's anyone here that has a gaming addiction, it's definitely me. It's like, I think for me in gaming, like, it was kind of similar for me as it was for you, Brian, where
Mm,
I didn't really like my day-to-day life, you know?
mhm,
And a lot of my friends I did have like online, or even like my like IRL friends, like friends from school, like a lot of them would be into games too. And so we would like play games together instead of just like going out and doing something and like touching grass. But I think how I differ from you is that even if my friends weren't on, or if I didn't have friends that play games, I think I'd still be playing a lot of games back then. You
mm.
know, I just like as something to kind of fill the time, as something to kind of like give me that like dopamine rush, like, oh like God, this is fun. Like, oh like that was cool. Oh like nice kill. You know, like I'm like enjoying my time. It's like kind of filling the boredom. Like I think gaming is far and above like the thing that was there for me.
So you'd say you'd
Mhm.
play it just as much as you would have with or without your friends' involvement.
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
Because for me, it's like
I think
for me, it wasn't like, oh, my friends play this game, or oh, I want to hang out with my friends, therefore I'm going to game. It was more like, oh, I'm going to play these games, and oh, I have some friends that also play. Okay, let's play together. You know, like either way, I was probably going to play the game, or I was probably going to spend the day gaming.
Hmm.
mhm.
What were you
I
gonna
What
say?
think for
about
me it's
say,
like the
Vince?
grind of it.
The grind.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think for me it's like the grind of the game and just leveling up and getting to the next stage and getting to the next stage and the next one.
Yeah,
Over
you
months.
you definitely don't want to play with Justin then, because.
He ruins it.
Yeah, man.
anyways, yeah,
Ruins
we'll
that
move on
shit.
from that one. Yeah. So with that being said, that's another reason. That's another like pathway to addiction, though, right? Just that
Mhm.
escape, right? Just that filling that void, whatever that void is, filling some sort of void. Everyone that abuses a substance or whatever it is, like typically comes from a place of like either it creeps up on you, you don't realize you're addicted to it because you're just using it and using it and using it, and all of a sudden it's just boom, you're addicted. Like it just turned
Yeah.
into a big snowball that you can't escape. Or, you've been using it because you're escaping something or filling some sort of void. Um,
Mhm.
that's like harsh realities that I see comes with addiction. Like most people aren't choosing to be like reliant on these things. They use it for some sort of relief of sorts. Yeah.
So for our next question, why do you think these addictions become so big and became like such a social norm, Brian?
Well, not all addictions are social norms. There are certain things that are social norms for sure,
Hmm.
but most addictions I would argue aren't. Like the top two addictions, like being caffeine and alcohol, sure, those I would say are more societal norms. Those were grandfathered in, right? So alcohol was grandfathered in from who knows how long ago, and that just became part of society. That became part of a culture, a global culture. Alcohol, it's sold everywhere. It's like if a restaurant doesn't sell it, people are like, "What the fuck? Like, why doesn't it sell it?" So that's more societal. Caffeine, that's our workaholic culture. Coffee itself is a culture. Like those are more cultural things. Caffeine and alcohol are more cultural, and that's why those things are more societal. They just create. They just have their own integration into society.
Mhm.
Other things like substances wise, like nicotine, tobacco, opioids, like illegal or prescription pills, like marijuana, those type of things. Like that's not. I wouldn't consider those like societal norms per se. Like some things might be more societally accepted now, like marijuana, but for those other things, like those are by no means like socially accepted. Like if you told me you're addicted to painkillers, I'd be like, yeah, you need some help, right? Like very clearly you need some help. Like so, but why does it happen? Like a variety of fucking reasons. People are escaping from something. People are trying to fill in a void. People need some sort of boost to get through the day, you know, or people just do something through social pressures and continue to do it more and more and more because they're constantly in that environment to do so, and it becomes something that is an addiction. You know, there's so many reasons, and it's hard to say there's one real reason.
What about you, Mason? What do you think?
I mean, I think Brian like pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I mean, like, like that is the answer in my mind. I guess there's like another thing I could talk about is just the, maybe more like historically, like how these things became big. Because I don't think it was just like why did it become like a cultural thing, and like why did it become like socially acceptable, and why was it so big in the first place? You know, again, like a variety of reasons, but I wouldn't say it's just like the consumer side, right? Where it's like, oh, these things are addictive. Oh, these things make you feel good. They give stress relief. Okay, and that's why they became big. Certainly a part of it. I think perhaps even the larger part of it is more of like the supply side of things, whether it's like drug dealers or like, you know, these like tobacco plantations or, you know, just like this constant like pushing out of like these, you know, caffeine, you know, nicotine, alcohol, just like being pushed in your face all the time, like, you know, like advertisements on TV or whatever, you know, like it's always like constantly reminding you and like throwing things in your face of like, oh, like, yeah, this is like a good thing to do, like you should go do this. And like I mentioned on the drug dealer side of like this kind of system of like dealers pushing out all these drugs into like the general population, and it just keeps getting pushed out further and further, and it's like poisoning the society, right? And that's how it becomes more of like a cultural thing, not necessarily like in terms of alcohol, but more so in terms of like harder drugs, right? It's like a poison, you know. And same, honestly, I don't know the full history of it. Same could probably be said of like nicotine and, you know, alcohol too. You know, it probably wasn't as big before, but then like as, you know, corporations got bigger or like, you know, suppliers had more power in the market, they were able to push things out harder and harder and so on and so forth. And then naturally the population just became addicted to it, and that's how the demand goes up. And, you know, that's like a whole different conversation. But I'm just saying that's like certainly another aspect to consider, is not like how did it become a cultural thing in the first place. I don't think it's all just due to it being an addictive substance, but I think it's also just the role individuals, corporations, cartels, all these entities on all like the parts they played in like bringing it to the consumers in the first place and like getting people addicted.
So I mean, I kind of think on the same kind of wavelength as you, Mason. Kind of like on the business kind of standpoint, they kind of push a lot of like, you know, advertisement, as you said. You know, Super Bowl is a big national televised program, you know, and millions watches it every year. And like one of the main sponsors, you know, a beer company of some sort. I believe it's Bud Light, but, you know, don't quote me on that. But, you know, it's a couple beer here and there, you know, advertising commercials, just you know, beer, you know, alcohol, nicotine. I don't think nicotine get a lot of advertisement, but I think that's a little different thing. But for alcohol, I think it's a big thing. Advertisement in your face. See a lot of trucks goes by. It's like Bud Light on the truck, you know, Budweiser, some sort of that kind of things. And then I think like a lot of like lobbying and stuff too. They kind of stop the government from controlling them. Kind of like, you know, in that kind of sense too. Kind of keep it going, keep the supply going. Don't stop it. You know, we're giving you a lot of support from our businesses, to keep all these programs running. So, don't stop us so we can help you too. It's a win-win situation in in some aspects. And then obviously as a consumer, we just take it in, buy more every week, alcohol stores, alcohol is very profitable too. So as a restaurant, I think like 3 times profit if you sell it in a restaurant, I believe. And then obviously family parties and stuff from alcohol stores and stuff like that. It's very cheap. It's a very easy gift to bring to a party too. You don't have to make any food. Just bring a case of beer. You're good. Everyone's happy. It's kind of social aspect in that way too. So that's my opinion on it. But
Okay.
I think there are definitely certain substances that are heavily based off that supply, right? The supply side of things, that chain where it's like being pushed out into the world. Opioids, especially, like illegal drugs, illegal substances in general, like, yeah, those are definitely being like pushed really hard, whether through black market channels or through more legal means like opioids. Like the crises exist because of the pharmaceutical companies that have pushed it through legitimate channels, making doctors prescribe them to everyone for every little thing. That's definitely a cause for addiction, because people are trusting those experts who say, "Oh yeah, do this." They trust them, and boom, they get addicted to that, right? That makes sense, you know. But there are other things, like when it comes to like alcohol and caffeine, like these are things that have been around since like fucking who knows how long ago, right? Like alcohol has been around since fucking the medieval times, if not way before that, right? It's been portrayed in the sense that like everyone's drinking to celebrate, to enjoy, to for whatever reason. Like it again, it's been grandfathered in. It's just been around for so long. Like that's just part of our culture as a human society. Unfortunately, alcohol is just that ingrained into our culture. So it never had to be pushed from a supply side to that point. Maybe like after during the prohibition era, sure, but I mean beyond that, like it's always been part of society.
But I think nowadays for like our, class, college class and stuff wise, I feel like the younger class, they don't push it as much anymore. I think that's kind of a positive in a sense. And like that hazing culture and stuff too, from what I hear a little bit, but I'm not too sure on how that works nowadays. But I feel like a lot of the younger generation, they say no a lot more too. So it might lessen out over time, but who knows?
Yeah, because their substance abuse is something else now.
It's called nicotine.
called pills and fucking weed.
Yes,
No offense,
it's
but
true.
yeah, like I've seen a transition from alcohol and tobacco to nicotine and pills. Like
It is
it's
very socially accepted now, I think, too, for those kind of substances.
I mean,
I
from
think maybe
from a
nicotine is more socially acceptable, but I think in terms of pills and stuff like that, I don't think that's anywhere near socially
yeah, I
acceptable.
don't think like in certain niches, like in the environments that we might have been involved in, like in terms of like our friend groups and college environments and rave culture, all that stuff. Because of our exposure to those things, it might seem like those things are widely accepted, but I still don't think they're like a
To
societal
that point,
norm.
yeah.
Like I would like to the
So you
extent
just
that
feel like it's a
alcohol and
culture.
nicotine.
That's
Yeah,
the
like
community norms, I guess you want to say.
yeah, I wouldn't say there's I can't even say it's like a culture thing. Like yeah, you can consider anything like a little subculture, but that's just a tough argument to make, in my opinion.
I think like what cocaine was a big thing back in the days, like the 80s and stuff, right? But it wasn't like to the point where it's like the same level as nicotine or alcohol, like you said, right?
Well, I don't know.
But to
You
make
know,
it, mm,
if you're talking about
okay,
cocaine,
okay,
like
from a
there's definitely a
societal
period of time.
standpoint,
Go ahead, Brian.
from a societal standpoint, what's the most prevailing, right?
I think it's reason, right, Mason?
Yes, no, lagging a little bit.
Yeah, let's give him a
No
minute.
problem. No, like, yeah, like these are things that have real history in a very long life period. Like it's been so entrenched in our lives. Like you if there are people like, okay, as a kid, if you look at alcohol, you're like, oh, that's what my parents drink. There's nothing crazy. You
Yeah.
know,
No.
smoking, oh, that's what my grandparents or uncles do. That's nothing crazy. You see a kid you see someone doing a line of coke, you're like, what the fuck is that?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you see someone popping like a tab or something, you're like, what is that? You know,
Yeah.
I think they're also
why
portrayed
is
in
it when
like
it comes to
in
yeah.
media that like if you take a pill or something, you go kind of crazy. When you go out, like when you take like you drink alcohol and stuff, you have fun. And a lot of like these movies and stuff like that too, where they and then obviously your
I mean,
parents too. I don't know
Mhm.
what I see at
well,
least.
those when it comes to too far off, but I mean, that's that's actually normalized and accepted, and not as like looked at in a shocking or like disgusting way as other addictions.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Bros and Brews. Episode 2, guys. We made it.